Monday morning.
If only they see what happens on the show.
They need to just show it.
Yeah. Some people go crazy after we go off, and then when we come back on, they just behave like normal people, but they're not actually
freeze.
normal.
Freeze.
They
and
just
freeze.
freeze and freeze.
Okay, so let's get straight to our first guest. His name is looking all put together. His name is Abiola Champ Salami. He's a world performance coach. There's just a lot about him here, so I just wanted to just do a brief recap. Of course, he's a performance coach committed to raising world-class leaders. That's how they do when they go to this event. You first introduce them, and that when they are suits,
they just
sit down and gather. And when they not say, thank you. Okay. So there's a point that really got to me. It says in the wake of the corona pandemic, he championed a campaign that reached over 1 million people in handling panic in the wake of coronavirus. Of course, how to enjoy sound emotional and mental health during the pandemic. So there's a lot you have done. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet both of you, by the way.
Yes,
nice to meet you too.
You know, say thank you for the
intro.
So the intro. We did not play any video yet, but we gave you an intro. Welcome to the show.
It's okay. Thank you.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Well, I'm okay. Fine. We are all rising up from the, let's say, the ashes of all that has happened in 2020, from coronavirus to the protests to even the U.S. elections, and we're hoping for we're hoping to end the year better.
Yes, yes. Let me just ask, how does it feel, women, and okay, we have Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's win. How does it feel for you, or how does that make you feel? Okay,
so more for Kamala for me, and less for Joe Biden for me. And why? It's because for about a decade, I've dedicated a greater part of my life, in empowering and working with empowering women, inspiring women. Even my second book, it says, "Who Says It's a Man's World?" And the idea of the book is challenging notions that a lot of people have about women, and that a lot of women have about women as well, who thinks that the reason they are probably not progressing as much as they should, is because of some men. So for me, it's an exciting time to be alive, to see that for the first time in the history of America, that a woman is holding on to the second highest office. And then what I wrote about Kamala on my Instagram page as soon as the election results was announced, my last line says that I look forward to congratulating her more in the future. Nice. But that more, let us put it in the bag. When the more comes, we will reveal.
Okay, I think where I would love to start from is we're coming from a pandemic. A lot of people have felt a bit unsafe, mentally unsafe, physically unsafe. They're not sure the way out. But let's start with how you've helped people go through the pandemic. She was reading something about how you helped 1 million people get through the phase of the pandemic mentally, because you must agree with me that COVID-19, even if you didn't catch the virus, it must have messed with you psychologically for a bit. So how did you manage to do all of this at that time?
Okay, so in the beginning, before the lockdown, when people started talking about it, people started panicking before the lockdown. And like you said, the death from coronavirus is one thing. The fear of death of coronavirus is another thing, which was a reality. And so people started panicking. And once we noticed that in the conversations, in what people are posting on social media, so we put a mechanism in place to try and give people an orientation and give them some comfort. So of course, still working through social media. So we launched the campaign titled "How to Handle Panic in the Wake of Coronavirus Pandemic." That went to about 1 million people. And what the content was saying is that it's important that we get educated and we are not afraid. Because even when you are panicking, your mind cannot open to listening to what you can do to avoid contacting the virus, or what you should do even now that there is lockdown. So we moved it to the next phase, which is releasing an ebook, a free ebook, to hundreds of thousands of people, on how to manage themselves during the pandemic. So we're moving from the panic now, while people are still working, into now there is locked down, now you're at home, so that at the end of the lockdown, you won't realize that you were probably wearing size 6 before, and now you're double, and you've doubled your size wearing size 12. But there are some people that really want to add, right? So if you want to add to your weight, that is okay. But if it is situational, if you are adding because of the situation, then it may not be so good for you. Then also have to still remain productive, because there was locked down, then a lot of people were working from home. And a lot of people, because this is strange to them, they don't have the discipline to still remain productive, to still deliver high performance, even while working from home. So somebody may wake up, and when the person wakes up, let's say the person wakes up 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. eventually, the person that would have woken up like 5 a.m. before now, because the person has to be on the road for some 2 hours or 3 hours to journey from the house to the office, and then wakes up 8 a.m. and then just drags the laptop from one side to the side of the bed, and just keep working day in, day out like that. So the book educated people on how to still manage yourself, still wake up, right? Take your bath, freshen up. I mean, some people confess that for like a week they did not enter the bathroom to freshen up, because they are not on video calls. They are not going out. They are perhaps the only one, especially those who are not with family in the house. So since all you need from them is to get an email, receive a phone call, and all of that, but there's a way that also gives us stress, because it took people out of what people are used to doing normally. So still being in the house, wake up, freshen up. When you freshen up, of course, your body is fresh, your mind is fresh as well. Then don't necessarily start working on your bed. Create some space within your house. Have a table, a seat, to work normally, and then don't just sit there all night long, because you may realize that some part of your body, the circumference part of your body may start growing.
Okay. Let's move this conversation a bit to the aspect of emotional intelligence, because that's really the crux of what we want to talk about. How you can develop emotional intelligence for high level of productivity in the workplace. It might be at work or at home. How can people, because people struggle with emotional intelligence in the workplace, and it doesn't even allow you to achieve your best self. So how can people just work hard in that aspect to achieve, better productivity, basically?
Fantastic. At the beginning of it is for us to even understand what is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is simply developing the capacity to, one, understand yourself, which is the place of self-awareness. Two, to properly manage yourself, which is based on the information you have, the knowledge you have about you, that you can choose what to say and what to do at different points in time. The third part of it is social awareness, which is you understanding other people. And then because of what you understand about them, you can choose what you do and say to them in developing effective relationships with them. So how do we cultivate this to ensure that we have high performance? And the beginning again is to develop self-awareness. So when we ask, if I ask you about yourself, that you should please tell me about yourself, the most likely thing is you start by telling me your name. You probably say you are single or married and all of those things. But that is not really who you are, right? Who you are, and it's not about your religion, whether you're Christian or Muslim and all of that. Who you really are is the person on the inside. Who you really are is about your reactions, your attitude, the way you deal with issues. If you are a fearful person, that is one emotion, fear. If you're a fearful person, what is a negative emotion, or a courageous person, which is a positive emotion. And so in the workplace, at times that you need to develop courage. So for example, you need to make a presentation, and in the presence of, 10 people, and 10 of them, you don't even know any one of them. And there are times that you may get into a situation that all of the people you're about to talk to, they are frowning and they're just wondering, what's Ike doing this? Let him just do this thing for 5 minutes and get out of this place. And that may get to you. You may find yourself, you may start to stammer. Now you are confident, you know you're tough, you know what you're supposed to deliver, and then you may just get there, start to stammer because of stage fright, because of the way they are probably looking at you. How do you develop courage in that instance? Number one is to realize that even if they are frowning at you, to realize that they are not necessarily there to work against you. And one of the things I do with emotional intelligence is when I stand in front of a people, whether they are frowning, so far they are not carrying gun, whether they are frowning, whatever, you begin by smiling, right? Now, when you smile, research has shown us that when you smile, you give yourself some positive energy and rest, even in the midst of the opposition, you know, that you may be facing. And then the most likely thing is when you smile, you will likely get a smile back. So a few seconds ago, I smiled, and I'm not sure Ike calculated it, but he just smiled, right? Because it's like a reflex action. You know, and so with that, you're able to properly manage yourself. With that, you can navigate the situation of fear. And in the beginning, you may wobble for a bit, you know, but as you continue, which is the second thing, about cultivating emotional intelligence. I talk about smiling the other time, which is the other thing about staying there, and you develop the courage to continue. It is said that courage is not the absence of fear, but your willingness to persist in spite of the fear, right? So you stay there, you deliver it. I'm sure that both of you've experienced this many, many times.
A lot of times.
You know,
I mean, it's key to what we do, even as, you know, media personalities, broadcasters. You also want to weigh, even as you're talking, sometimes you have guests who are not up to par as to the level as which you want to flow on. But you still have to find that emotional intelligence to come down to the level and disperse whatever it is. So I get it, but let's talk a bit about young people and one of the challenges they face in, you know, the workplace environment. You hear companies who tell you, oh, fresh graduates, 25 and below, all of that. Has this helped building young people when you say no experience whatsoever, just coming the way you are, learning the system however it is? How have you been able to impact all this energy, all this information you have to young people who might not necessarily have that opportunity to be 25 and below to get those jobs, but want to get into nice places? Have you been able to impact? Okay,
great. So there are even organizations that don't necessarily take people just like that and put them to the work. I mean, to work. You know, they go through some months of training, right, before they even put them to work. There are some other people that perhaps because of age reasons, they cannot make that, they don't meet that requirement. So what we do via our platforms is to continue to educate people, continue to put out information out there, education out there, such that whether you are fortunate enough to be within the four walls of a training school structured with an organization, or you are not, you still have access, you know, to gaining this information. And from time to time, we organize programs where we bring people together. Before COVID, where we bring people together. Nice. Since COVID, where we do online, you know, from time to time, to continue to educate people. You know, and one of the significant things also about emotional intelligence is that there are times that people will interact with you, even in the workplace. And the reason they are interacting with you is not necessarily to help you, is just to help them at times by distracting you, right? So emotional intelligence is having emotional intelligence is the fact that you can understand them, you can see through them. A bigger part of emotional intelligence is empathy. Empathy says seek first to understand before you are understood, so that you can see through them. So whether the person is manipulative or not, you know, whether the person is deceptive or not, you know, whether the person is really on your side, you know. You know, and there are people that they'll just look at you, and perhaps because they know a little bit about yourself than you know about yourself. You know, we're talking about self-awareness before. They know what button to press. I fondly call it, they know your mumu button. You know, and then they press your mumu button. And once they press your mumu button, it could be that they know that once they insult you, that you'll be distracted, or once they press you.
Sorry, at this point we need to have just a lot of these things are coming to my thoughts. You know how it is, you work with people and you just literally, especially when it's an environment where there's so many people work together. But we really need to wrap up this. Last words, just your last words, you know, before we wrap up.
Okay, so last words. For every one of us, it's important for us to cultivate emotional intelligence. You can learn it with your friends, interacting with your friends. You can learn it by buying books. You can learn it by, you know, getting mentored as well by some of your leaders in your organization. But it is critical for us to master emotional intelligence so that you can perform high and you can be the leader and the champion that you are created to be.
How do they get in touch with you?
Okay, social media at Abiola Champ everywhere, at Abiola Champ on Instagram, at Abiola Champ on Twitter, at Abiola Champ on Facebook, YouTube channel, Abiola Champ everywhere, Abiola Champ.
Nice. Thank you so much for coming on the show to give us some motivation. That's what we need on a Monday to get us going for the new week. Thank you so much.
Just said it. Get your Monday right.
Get your Monday right and go good to go.
Sure, sometimes you get the first Monday of the month right, you get the whole month right.
Right? I know, right?